Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Birding with Extension and our weekly Cup Chat series, or almost weekly. And so today joining us is Dr. Frank. We don't have a special guest, but today Dr. Frank is going to be talking about grebe migration and a specific type of grebe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Eared grebes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they really have ears though?
The best kind. No, but it's like, great horned owls don't have horns. They're just little feathers that look like ears.
Gotcha.
Like so I have a picture of one, don't worry.
That's what I was saying. So why don't you go ahead and pop that up so everyone knows what bird we're talking about today.
Okay, but first, this is Cup Chat. Can we chat about my cup for a second?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was moving too fast. Yes. But we all saw it on Facebook. So
I know, but I just needed to make sure everybody could see again that my mom got for me. And it's got a bird, like it's just for Cup Chat. And I'm so excited. And she got me more tea to go inside because the tea that I drink was here for a while. You could get it in Uvalde, and then now it's not here anymore. So she sent me some.
Interesting. They have this thing called Amazon, and you can order it and they'll ship it to your door for free if you're a Prime member.
They do. I like to get it straight from the source. I haven't used Amazon for a while now. So okay, so grapes.
Wait. But let's go back to your cup.
Oh, okay.
Really quick. I really like it because it's blue. So the blue and the floral pattern really match my house. And so if you bring it when you come visit me, you might not get that.
So I can bring it and be excited that it matches, but then I won't get it back. So I don't think I'll bring it.
Nope. But fun fact is yesterday, we saw that our winner from our native plant challenge, she got her mug in the mail. So we're excited that Allie got her mug. But since there are no rules on Cup Chat, I think we should give away another mug today. And so no promises of what it's going to look like. It is going to be me and Dr. Frank shopping for a cute coffee mug for your Cup Chat. So we will be giving away a free coffee cup today. All you got to do to be entered is comment with your name and not your name, but where you're joining us from today in the comments, and you'll be entered to win, and we'll draw that next week on Cup Chat. So it will be bird related, we promise.
Yes. Sounds good. Okay. Are you ready? I've got my grebe pulled up.
I'm ready.
I want everybody to know. So what we're talking about today is from my dissertation research, and I'm ridiculously excited to share this. And I guess we've talked about migration before on Cup Chat, and that's a lot of what it's about. So I think that's why, and I didn't do it here in Texas, right? So I think that's why we haven't talked about it before, but I get ridiculously excited about this topic. So first off.
And you have this just odd love of these grebes, do you not?
I think it's just in part from having gotten to study them, because I feel the same way about phalaropes that I also got to study. So yeah.
Okay, let's see them.
But look how cool they are.
They are cool.
So they've got their little ears, or their little feathers there. The males and the females look the same. They've got those red eyes, and that's going to be during the breeding season. And so I would see them like this sometimes, but I was mostly studying them right before they were going to migrate. Some of them breed on Great Salt Lake. That's where I was doing my research. But most of the time we would see them and they looked like this.
That one's still red eye.
So their eyes are still red, but you can see they don't have their ears anymore. Their ears fall off. So.
Aw, poor guys lose their ears.
Yeah. And so, couple different. So when they are younger, this is a juvenile. You can see his eye is that yellow-orange color. So the red eye is what you see in the adults. So
I have to say this is a little bit creepy.
I think, it's interesting because there's a handful of birds that have red eyes, and it can be a little creepy. Like, it's a color that I think we're not really used to seeing in an eye, and it's very especially against the color of the rest of their feathers, it's a pretty drab bird, if you look at the rest of it, and then you see its eye, and it stands out a lot from the rest of the bird. So
a little interesting. So give us wait, go back.
Oh, you wanted him back. Okay.
I want him back. Yes.
Coming back.
But I want you to go to the
one map. Of a bunch of them all together. Oh, okay.
It's a cute picture of them all together. But let's see a map. What are the chances of seeing them in Texas, and where you're at. So
Oh, good question.
let's look at their map.
Okay.
Their range map, so that way we can everyone can see if they want to go see the creepy red-eyed bird with ears, where they can go do that.
So this is the time of year that you would want to see. They're coming up on the time of year where I'm in fall migration right now, and grebes actually migrate very late. So they really, for the most part, would start leaving from Great Salt Lake around the middle of November, so we're a little early yet. But as we're coming here into the winter is when you can see them, as you can see, really all throughout Texas. During migration, they're up a little bit in the Playa Lakes area, kind of up in the Panhandle. But during the winter, you can find them kind of throughout the rest of Texas. However, you're not going to find them, actually nowhere will you find them in as big of numbers as we find them at Great Salt Lake. And so that was part of what we were looking at, is that we would have about half of the entire world's population of eared grebes staging or getting ready for migration on Great Salt Lake. And so that there's like this big, they're all grouped together. So they're going to breed. You see that orange area where they're breeding, they're all throughout there when they're breeding. But then they really concentrate on Great Salt Lake and Mono Lake in California as kind of the two areas that they prep for migration. And then some of those other areas in yellow that you can see on the map, but they're really mostly in those two areas, and then they head south for the winter. And most of them are kind of going down to the, what is that? Sorry, not the Gulf of Mexico. In between Baja California and Mexico.
They go down.
My mind is completely dead right now. They go down. They go to this area right here. That's where most of them are, but you can see them in Texas as well. So I haven't actually seen one here in Texas. I would be so excited if I saw one here in Texas.
So, okay, so this, I know I'm going to be completely off script, and I apologize.
Okay.
But there are no rules in CupChat. So, but why do they stage? So, like, what did your research show? Take the map away because you can't see me on Facebook. It's weird. Yeah, when we share a screen, only the person who's talking is up in the screen.
Oh, yeah.
So why are they staging? Did your research come up with any information as to why they're staging in one of those two spots?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. We've talked about on CupChat before, I guess it was when Dr. McWilliams was here, about migration being really energetically costly, right? So it takes a lot of effort to complete. And let's talk real quick about eared grebes in particular, and migration. Eared grebes are not good at flying.
Well, that would make migration challenging.
That makes migration even more challenging, right? And so I did have a picture pulled up that I wanted to share to just kind of help explain this, because I think sometimes we think about birds and flying and we're like, oh, it's a bird, it can fly. And we kind of assume that that's equal across birds, but it's really not. Eared grebes are very much designed for the water. And so if we look at their bodies here, their legs are set way far back on their bodies. So do you see how it's basically like its whole body and then its legs are coming out the back? So they're not underneath it at all. So that's an adaptation for them to be able to swim really well. They're fantastic at swimming, where he's diving there under the water. But their wings are very short. And I don't know if you could tell that in those pictures that I showed earlier, but their wings are short and they're kind of like a little potato. They're not sleek, right? You know, when Dr. Bull was talking about those hawks last week, and he showed, what's the underlying structure of a hawk compared to the silhouette. And they're really very sleek. The rest of it is just feathers. And grebes have a lot of feathers as well, but their bodies are a lot chunkier. And so they're these chunky, heavy birds that don't walk well. They actually cannot take off. They can't start flying from land because of the way their legs are positioned. They have to take off from the water. And so they're just these clumsy, awkward birds that don't fly well. And so they, in particular, are going to have a hard time with migration, and they really need to get fueled up before they go. So there's a lot of different birds that are going to do this preparation for migration, where they're going to eat as much as they possibly can before they migrate, because during that migration period, they're not going to be eating, or they may not be eating as much. There's kind of two different areas that we talk about. There's what you call stopover areas and staging areas when we're talking about migration. And a stopover area is kind of referring to species as they're going along their migration, it's kind of like a quick refuel, right? Like you go into Buc-ee's and you get your snacks and your drinks and fuel up.
I don't go to Buc-ee's. There's too many people.
You don't go to Buc-ee's? Oh, see, I thought you would like
Not
Buc-ee's.
to hate on Buc-ee's on Cup Chat for birding with extension, but Buc-ee's is always so busy and it's just so much. So I like Buc-ee's because of their clean restrooms.
Yes.
But it's a lot.
Yeah.
So
okay. Good to know. Good to know. Okay. So where do you normally stop? Just wherever?
If I have to stop, I'll stop anywhere. I mean, I don't have
yeah.
But I really am not a stopper. The other day I drove home from Dallas. I drove the full way home in one click. I drove through a drive-through to get to the meet, but if I can make it, I'm gonna make
it. Okay. So we'll talk about that. So I normally don't like to stop. When you have small children, you end up with more stops. So stopover is like your quick run in, get what you need, keep going. You would be like a staging area bird. So staging is like you get everything together that you need and you're there for a while and then you go. So Great Salt Lake is considered like a major staging area for a bunch of different species, not just grebes, but there's such abundant food resources there that these species will come and they'll stay there for a while because they can access so much food and get ready for that big migration and then go. So it's kind of like the difference between a hop and a jump. So stopover areas are like these little hops and staging areas are these big jumps that help get species through migration. So and so particularly we could go into a whole bunch of stuff with this, but at Great Salt Lake the lake is very, very salty. No surprise, but you hear Salt Lake and you're like, well, the ocean is also salty, right? The ocean is about 3% salinity and Great Salt Lake is between 12 and 15% in the main part of the lake. So it's way saltier. Fish cannot live there. But there's brine shrimp, which are sea monkeys, if anybody's familiar with those. That's what's in the lake, completely full of them. And that's what it is that grebes are eating, is they're just basically feasting on brine shrimp for as long as they can to get ready for their migration. And so what we were looking at is when do grebes leave the lake? Is there like some density of brine shrimp that gets too low? And so they're like, okay, there's not enough shrimp, we need to leave now. Or does it have more to do with particular weather patterns that we're seeing because they're not good at flying? And we talked about this like a little bit with hawks, right? And we talked about how a lot of times Dr. Bull mentioned, if there's a cold front coming through, they'll kind of like ride that thermal down. And so we were interested in looking at that, like if there's favorable winds for grebes, does that play a role in when they're going to leave from Great Salt Lake? And so that was kind of what we were looking at. And so we found that there is the shrimp density. So Great Salt Lake is huge. And so, I mean, even when we were on that map for the US, like it shows up, it's a very large body of water. And so when we looked at shrimp densities, we were really looking at like average shrimp densities across the whole lake. And that didn't really relate to grebe departures that we were seeing. And we think that's because grebes can definitely deplete a bunch of shrimp locally. So, when we average that across the lake, we're seeing, maybe that still looks like there's a lot of shrimp, but in a certain area, there's not. And so that didn't connect very well. But we did see some relation to, a high pressure system indicating good weather and favorable winds. We definitely saw that grebes were more likely to depart from the lake if the winds were coming out of the north and not too strong, as opposed to, having like a headwind. And so it kind of seemed to be like, less related to the shrimp densities as that ability for them to be able to fly. And of course, on an individual basis, we're talking, by the way, about like 2 to 4 million eared grebes that are going to be on Great Salt Lake. And so just like with people, there's a lot of variation there. Even if you and I had the same resource, I might be ready to leave before you are. And so they're leaving at different times.
Not ready before me. Let's be real. I'm always ready before you.
That's true.
Always.
That's true.
So
there's some variation there. And so
for when we're getting ready in the mornings.
In the morning, right?
With me there.
Yes. So so there's variation over this long period of time. And so there were, I don't remember the longest and the shortest period of times over which we saw departures occur, but basically, starting around the middle of November to the middle of December, you'll see grebes leaving from the lake. And, there's so many of them. They're not all going to go in one night. A few will go, and then some nights a lot of them go. And so different nights it's going to be different.
Gotcha. Well, and everyone joining us, don't remember, I went a little off script earlier this morning already. And so we are going to give away a coffee mug for your cup chat enjoying pleasures. So if you are joining us, make sure you comment below with your name or where you're joining us from, and that way we can have you entered in to win our mug drawing this morning. So what is special about grebes and their migration? What makes it kind of unique as per other birds? Or did we already answer that question?
I think we mostly answered that, just that there's so many of them all in one area, and that there's that big staging effort. Compared to birds kind of spread out.
Gotcha. But so when do grebes really migrate? Hawks migrate during the day, most birds migrate at night. When is your best chance to see a grebe migrating?
Yeah, so we talked about with the hawks last week that hawks are going to be migrating during the day. Pretty much all of our other birds are going to be migrating at night. And so this is something that I think we've talked about a little bit on here before, but I get so excited about it because it's really cool. Because typically when we're talking about things migrating at night, we can't see that, right? Like it's dark out there, so you don't know what's flying overhead. I mean, airplanes, obviously they've got lights, but birds are, can just fly overhead silently and you're not going to know that they're there. When estimating like densities of birds flying overhead, if you get it just right and there's a lot of birds and you've got a full moon that night and it's clear, sometimes you can see, if you've got a scope or binoculars, like the silhouettes of birds going across the moon. And so some people will estimate like the rate of the migration depending on how many you see fly by. But that's not like, you have to get really specific conditions, right? And so back in the 40s, when radar was first developed, it was realized that there were these things showing up on radar where they, like these big signatures that nothing else would have been there that we knew about. And so when bird migrations first showed up on radar and nobody knew what they were, they said that they were angels that were showing up on the radar. And then eventually some people figured out that there are birds migrating. So the way that radar works is you're sending out basically a pulse of energy, a wave that's going to hit something and get bounced back, right? Like when we talk about bat echolocation, it's a very similar concept. And so anything that can get reflected off of, the idea with radar initially was like it's coming back off a plane, right, to help see where enemy aircraft are. But when we're talking about weather now is where it's most commonly used, a raindrop or hail or snow, like all of those things are going to reflect the radar signal back. But anything in the atmosphere can do that. So that includes birds and bats and insects. All of those will show up on radar. And so what we see when when you tune into your weather station and it shows you the radar, or if you're on, if you're online or, your phone radar, although the phone doesn't always catch it. I see it sometimes on my weather app. Usually they're filtering out all of that, all of the animals that are showing up on radar, because that's not what people are interested in. They pulled up the weather app to get the weather. But if you get like the raw radar data, then you can see those on there. And they're very characteristic, right? So they look different from how from what weather is going to look like on radar. And so it's really cool because it allows you to see where that movement is occurring at any given time, because we have weather radar stations all across the country. And so I'm going to show this like in general, and then I'm going to talk about how specifically we did it to look at eared grebes. But this is, and I think we've talked about this one, or maybe we've just posted it here before. We've posted on our Facebook before, but there's a website called Birdcast. So kind of like we think about a weather forecast, Birdcast allows you to see where bird migrations are supposed to occur. So
the other day we saw on Facebook floating around. Everyone might have seen the butterfly one, the monarch migration butterfly.
Oh yeah, I think I saw that, but I don't think I clicked on it. Yeah. So right, so similar idea of we're going to use this radar, and so what Birdcast does is it looks at where birds have been and weather patterns, because the weather is going to impact a lot of birds. You don't want to be migrating like in a rainstorm or in a snowstorm, as it, if that's occurring. You want to go when it's good conditions. And so birdcast actually will forecast what a migration looks like, because especially if you're going out birding and you know that there's a lot of birds coming through your area, then that's a good day to go birding. You may have some new species coming in. But you can also see the live map. So today is October 6th. So you can see this map is from yesterday, October 5th. And so we can play this and look at how that migration was occurring. So that red line is sunset. And so you can see that when sunset happens, there's birds all over the place. And so you can see, especially like if you're east of I-35 in Texas, some major movements were occurring yesterday. And then it started to get, that yellow line is sunrise. So you can see then it kind of calms down after that. So
gotcha. And that's one thing, we're seeing a lot of these birdcast maps come across our Facebook feed with the new Lights Out initiatives. And so they're really highlighting and showcasing these birdcast radars as we promote the Lights Out to the different communities, and especially in Texas, that's taken hold. And it may have taken hold some other places, but I don't have a lot of Facebook friends from all over the United States to see their Lights Out post. But I do see the ones in Texas. So
yeah, and the Lights Out that's a good time to promote Lights Out, and you can see why that's so important, because you can see there's just so many birds. So the one thing that's really cool, you can see the different colors on this map are different densities, but if you look at what this indicates, that those areas where we have white, so I'm going to start running this so that we can see some of where that's occurring. So some of those really bright areas, maybe down along the coast here of Texas, and even some of these yellows, once you start into that yellow color, we're talking about like 30 up to that white color of 50 thousands of birds passing over a kilometer in an hour. So it's kind of a weird measurement, right? But that's just the estimate based off of, again, how that radar is getting scattered back. And then you see those arrows as well as indicating the direction of that movement. So it's fall, everybody's migrating south. You can see, generally speaking, where those arrows are headed. As we get closer to when eared grebes will be migrating, so you can see on this map, here's this green station is the Salt Lake City station. And so that's where we'll see the grebe migration occurring out of. But there's a lot, like I mentioned, there's a lot of birds that are going to be at Great Salt Lake, but it's a little bit early for some of those to be leaving. And so some of those, there's actually some swans that will migrate off and go, trying to remember if they head out east or west. They head west, I suppose. And the grebes are pretty much going straight south. There's when we talk about the geography in Utah and in Nevada, that's what's called the basin and range area. And so there's a bunch of mountains that are kind of running parallel to each other, all these mountain ranges. And again, being not very good flyers, the grebes aren't typically going to try to get up and cross over those mountain ranges. So there's two mountain ranges south of Great Salt Lake that kind of funnel the grebes between them. And so that's where we can talk about how I looked at grebes showing up on radar. So there's a bunch of research going into, trying to distinguish different species of birds that you can see on radar. But the grebes are actually really easy to tell because they're the last thing to migrate from Great Salt Lake, and they're going to show up going straight south on the radar because they're headed in between those mountain ranges. So I'm going to share my screen one more time. You can see what they look like. And actually, I think I have this with the geography as well. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so here's Great Salt Lake, and on the map we're just looking on, that green dot is the KMTX, that's the local weather radar station. And so then you can see here, that's a mountain range where you can see that darker green up top, and then there's another one here. All of this white out to the side is the Bonneville Salt Flats, kind of a famous area. So that's what's over there. And there's really nothing there. So, but these two mountain ranges headed south, and the grebes always show up going straight down between them. So when we look at it with a black background, it just looks like this, that column of grebes. And so this is the reflectivity, this is the velocity. This is how quickly those birds are moving. But you can see they're always going to be moving in that direction. That warm color indicates movement away from the station. So it's always relative to what we're seeing here on the station. And so sometimes you see radar images where you've got like weather coming through, but then you can still see this line of grebes headed straight south. So you know that the wind is blowing this way. When you see something headed not the same way the wind is going, you know it's something different. So
Gotcha.
So
So we've had lots of
can
comments
look.
on today's
So.
post. So thank you everybody for tuning in. So let's, what was your favorite thing about the Grebes and being at the Salt Lakes?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, there's so many of them. I think that was something really special, is to get to see, and this was true of the phalaropes that I studied as well, to see so many birds present at one time. We would do aerial surveys, so we would fly in a fixed wing over certain routes over the lake to estimate bird numbers. And when the grebes were out, when pretty much everything else had left, so like our November and our December flights, there's not much else left on the lake. And you would just look down and just see just countless grebes spread across the lake. And that was always kind of fun. And of course, a lot of them, when the plane goes over, they'll dive. So you're kind of counting where their, where their little ripples are and not necessarily where they are. And you'd count by the hundreds, right? Like you estimate what 100 or so grebes looks like, because you can't count them individually because there's so many. But just the way they dive when they get scared, and watching them from the boat, come up, and sometimes they kind of pop up close to the boat and see you, and it's almost like it startles them. They kind of and they dive back down. They're just a really interesting and fun bird to watch. So watching a whole bunch of them all over the lake was super fun.
Well, that's fun. I don't have any more questions specific about eared grebes, except for I'm kind of sad that they lose their ears. I mean, I feel like that's just I feel like that's a kind of an odd, we're going to name them eared grebes and they're going to lose their
ears. So that's an interesting thing to talk about, though, just, talking about migration taking energy, and the energy that it takes, for birds to produce feathers, and we've talked about, I think, birds having different plumage cycles that they go through, because those feathers get really worn down, and those kind of ornamental feathers are not necessary, right? And so, they're not going to expend the extra energy to produce those year round. When it's not breeding season, the ladies don't care if they have fancy ears or not, although males and females have the ears during breeding season. So it's kind of an interesting situation there. But birds are, it's a big deal. And we talked about that with Dr. McWilliams, but it's a big deal to migrate, and it takes a ton of energy. And I think that's part of the message here. Was this was very specific to Great Salt Lake and how the lake and its resources are managed, which everybody in Texas is, that's not part of what we, have impact on. But, just bringing it back to your own backyards, tie into the Native Backyards Challenge, and providing those resources for birds to go. You mentioned the monarch migration, and as we've learned more and more about monarchs and their population decline, milkweeds is part of it, and making sure that they have those host plants in the spring, but then making sure that they have food in the fall is so important as well. And a lot of our, a lot of our non-native garden species, you're like, oh, it's fall, the garden's done. You're not necessarily thinking about flowering plants. But those native species that are going to be flowering all the way through the fall are so important, so that monarchs have enough food to get by. And likewise, those native plant resources for birds that are migrating are so important, so that they can be successful in that migration, because it is not easy for them to do. Even when they're better than grebes. So
we do have a unique question that has come through Stephanie, one of our Birding with Extension family members who came to learn to bird last year. So hi, Stephanie, thank you for joining us. She has said she's seen grebes that have interesting courtship rituals. Do eared grebes have interesting courtship rituals as well?
So that's a really good question, because I was not looking at grebes during their breeding period, but I will say they're not as interesting as what she's referring to as like Western and Clark's grebes that will get up and run across the water, and they kind of dance on the water, and it's very interesting. And they get up and I've seen them do it. They run across at each other. And yeah, if you look up Western grebe mating ritual, or they're very interesting. Grebes are not that interesting, but I actually don't know that much about them. There was a different researcher studying. Actually, I think he probably defended his PhD just recently, or will be defending soon, studying some of like the breeding ecology of grebes at Great Salt Lake. But I don't think he was looking at behaviors, and I feel ashamed. I should know that. I don't know what they look like. They are colony nesters, and they nest out in the open. So there'll be like a whole bunch of grebes all nesting together, a whole bunch of eared grebes that build like a little floating nest and all nest together
A
out in the
floating
kind of in the
nest?
bays.
Whoa, whoa,
Mhm.
whoa. A floating nest,
A
everyone. Did y'all
floating
hear
nest,
that
yeah,
one? They nest on the water.
on the
That's
water. Yeah,
cool.
it's a great adaptation too when you consider, like nest predators being a concern if you're on land. If you're out in the middle of a big salty lake, like things aren't going to mess
What
with
are
you out
you,
there.
the shrimp gonna eat you?
Right. And they're actually not typically nesting, like they don't nest out in the saltiest part of the lake. They're more in the wetlands because they're building that nest from vegetation, and there's no vegetation out in the main part of the lake. But there'll be like these big colonies of them on their little nests. And actually I'll have to link the Wildlife Society article about that because there's a master's student who looked at kind of where those nests are occurring in the lake. So I'll have to post that because I think she has a picture. I don't remember if it was in that article or not. But again, just seeing like a bunch of birds and there's like nest in the little body of water. So
Okay, so this has made me come up with another unique question, and I'm going to go ahead and go wild again and go rogue. I know. So this is a question for everyone out there, including Maureen. So comment below, and if you comment below, we will add your name again into the drawing to win the fancy cups that we will find. And the best part is you're not going to know what it looks like until you get it, and that's going to be fun. So so talking about just kind of a birding oddity and being able to see all the grebes at the Salt Lake, kind of a unique thing. If you could, unlimited resources, unlimited funds, if you could go anywhere to see a unique birding thing, where would you go?
Ooh, that's
Everybody
a
out
really
there, get
good
to
question.
commenting. Because I think it'd be cool, like to go see all of, to me, that's a unique thing, all on the lake, millions of grebes. That's kind of it's a rare, it's like a check mark kind of thing, kind of a big thing. I know it's not like just a specific list thing, but.
Right. Yeah, and that was so cool. And same thing, like you mentioned with the phalaropes being there in big numbers as well. I see this would be a hard thing for me. Some of those species that I really like, it would be neat to see them during different parts of their year. So phalaropes are staging at Great Salt Lake, and then grebes, not great flyers, they're not going very far from their breeding to their migration area. Phalaropes, on the other hand, Wilson's phalaropes are going from like the northern US all the way down to Argentina. So they have a long haul migration, and I would kind of like to go to Argentina and just see them down there because they're there too. And I would think that was really cool. The other thing though that I would love to see, I was a research volunteer in Honduras when I was an undergraduate, and I got to see a mannequin, but I did not get to see mannequins dance. And so if you've never seen a mannequin, MANAKIN, dance, they moonwalk, and it's fantastic and adorable, and I would kind of like to go back and see a dancing mannequin. It would be kind of fun.
I think that's cool. Oh my gosh, we're having some great answers here. So I'm just going to highlight a few. Stephanie would go to Bosque del Apache, New Mexico for the cranes.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about that one. Stephanie,
Yep,
that's an excellent point. That might be where I would go to.
Isn't this a fun one? Oh my goodness. We may have to have a cup chat just on the unique birding phenomenon.
We need to ask them. We need to get a crane person in here because that's a super cool.
That'd be fun. I, for some reason, cannot scroll on my comments today. Why are you hating me? Hold on just a second. The Galapagos Islands, that would be cool.
That'd be cool. For a lot of reasons, that would be a cool trip.
Yes. Beth has multiple answers, but I'm going to go with the one that I think would be the coolest. Africa during the rainy season. Other than the rain, because I'm like a cat, I don't want it to be cold or wet. That sounds super, super cool. Platte River for canes. So lots of different options.
And that's in Nebraska. Yeah, whether you're in Bosque del Apache or up in Nebraska, I would love to see sandhill cranes.
Yeah, blue-footed boobies. Ooh, that's a good one.
That'd be fun.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, we're going to have a cup chat on all the phenomenon, the birding, the unique birding experiences that are kind of like just,
Once in a
maybe it's,
lifetime, like, yeah.
yeah, I mean, because it's not necessarily like something that you would do every year, or
Right.
it's kind of one of those
Well,
momentous.
actually, see, and here's one that I didn't list because I've seen it before, but sage-grouse booming is so cool. Emily, you would hate it because we had to get up we met in the parking lot at 4 a.m. To get out there, and we would have not been up for that. But when you've got sage-grouse all around you, and you hear it, but it's such a low frequency that you kind of feel it. So it's like you feel these sage-grouse booming all around you. That's a super cool thing to see. And I know that's something that Brian has led trips for before, so we could ask him to talk about sage-grouse booming.
Yes. Anyways, okay. So some of those once in a lifetime birding experiences, Maureen, you obviously have had some by being able to fly over the Great Salt Lakes and count grapes in the millions.
Yep.
So
yes.
Everyone, we hope you had a wonderful Wednesday morning with us. It was fun. And I'm sure, Maureen, it was fun to hear you share some of your research and some of your passion. And it was, you could see the excitement and your weirdness. And I say that in a loving friend way.
I know.
About all your dissertation as a grad student at the moment. I could not ever imagine going back to school to get my doctorate at this point. And so bless you. And I'm glad you thought writing all the papers and doing all the research was funner than I do currently at grad school. So,
see that now you're talking about the writing part as opposed to the field work part. Field work, always fun. No such thing as a bad day in the field. Writing and analyzing, different
not
story.
The favorite thing.
Not the favorite thing.
Well, anyways, everyone have a great Wednesday. Hold on, let me see what our cup chat for next week is, because I think we actually.
We're off next week because we're getting ready for, right?
Are we off next week?
We'll be getting ready for Learn a Bird. You and I will be in.
We're not off.
Yeah, I was hoping we were off. What are we doing next week?
And we actually have a very good. We have a very interesting presentation, of which I cannot say correctly. Dr. McWilliams is back joining us.
What's he talking about? I don't remember.
It's a very odd, interesting word that I will butcher.
Oh, he's talking about Zuganru next week. Oh, our migration theme continues. Oh, now I'm so excited because this is an interesting topic too. Okay, yeah, we're talking about Zuganru next week, which is a behavioral phenomenon in birds before migration. So
yeah, see, and I promise next week I will not even try to say
Zuganru,
because it will not come out right. We'll see. We all know that if it's something that I have to pronounce, it's just a question mark out there. So everyone have a wonderful Wednesday, and we will see you next week as we have Dr. McWilliams back on. Have a great Wednesday.